We are doing a factoring review. So we did factor before Christmas break, but we're factoring again because of solving by factoring. So today we're just reviewing factoring before we add on the extra steps. So GCF only, it's when you take out a GCF but can't factor any further. So look in here, you have two terms. We should always check a GCF. Doesn't matter what it looks like. Okay, every single time you should check for a GCF. So first off, I always start with my smaller number. Does 4 go into 24? Mm-hmm. Yes, so 4 is my GCF. What else do they have in common? Mm-hmm. So I know that when I take out a GCF, I'm dividing it out. So the 4 is canceled. And then remember, what do we do to exponents when we're dividing? Mm-hmm. So 2 minus 1 is 1, so I have 1x. Plus 24 divided by 4 is 6, and these x's canceled. So there's your answer. Now there is a calculator trick. You can do math, write 9 in your calculator. So on this one, well, looking at it, I always start with my smallest number. Does 8 go into 12? No. What else goes into 8? 4. Does 4 go into 12? Yes, but does 4 go into 26? So if you're not sure, this is where your calculator comes into play. So math write 9. You could do 12, 8, because those are your first two numbers, and it tells you 4. So then what you do, if there's a third number, is you do math write 9. You take your first GCF, comma, your third number, and it tells me 2. So 2 is the only GCF here. Okay, you could have also just done 26 divided by 4 and realized, nope, it's a decimal, that didn't work. So it's 2. So we take out a 2 by dividing. That leaves me with 6x squared plus 4x minus 13. And this is where we're going to stop on this one because the rest of it, like, you can't keep going. It's prime, but we're going to re-talk about it here in just a second. Okay, so trinomials, it's 3 terms. This is when we use our snowflake. So just a reminder, this is ax squared plus bx plus c. It's your standard form. That's the form you want it in. Okay, so knowing that, here there is no GCF because a is 1, and they don't all have letters. So knowing that, we'd have to find our a, b, and c. So what is a? 1. What's b? And what's c? You notice I never put letters here, okay? There should never be letters there. So this is the way we set up the snowflake. I'm going to draw it pretty big so we can label. So this is your a times c, b for bottom, a times x, multiply, add. To tell us what goes there and there. So what is a times c? What's 1 times negative 10? And what's b? Okay, a is 1, so we have 1x. Okay, what multiplies to give you negative 10 and adds to give you 3? Well, we know 1 times 10. We know 2 times 5. We know those are our factors of 10. Which one of those is going to pretty much subtract because one of them has to be negative to give me 3? Yeah, so which one's going to be negative? Now I'm going to remind you of the calculator trick here in just a second. But 1 over 2 doesn't simplify, so this is a factor, and 1 over 5 doesn't simplify, so this is a factor. Okay, so looking at it, number 4. Again, we should always check for a GCF. Is there a GCF here?
9.
Well, 9 doesn't go into 66 or 21. But we can do this math right. 9, comma 66. And it tells me 3. Does 3 go into 21? Yeah, so 3 is our GCF. So we have to divide out our GCF. And that leaves me with 3k squared plus 22k plus 7. Now, I know this 3 is going to be part of my final answer, so I'm going to bring it to the bottom and I'm going to forget about it. I also know I'm not looking at this trinomial anymore. I'm only looking at this one. So I have A, B, C. What's A? B? And C? So A times C is 21. B is 22. A is 3, so 3, and this time it's a K. However, if y'all use an X, I'm not going to be mad. So if you put an X, that's fine. What multiplies to give me 21 and adds to give me 22? 1 and 21, and they're both positive. Now I am going to show you the trick. So in Y1, you type your top number divided by X. This is your top number. Okay, and Y2, you type your top number divided by X plus X. And then you go to your table. And whatever, you're looking for your B here, so 22, and whatever's here goes here. So if I show you in the calculator, so here it is 21. If you look, so here's negatives, and then here's 22 right at the bottom, and it's 21 and 1, both positive in these two. Do y'all see that? Okay. So knowing that, does 3 over 1 simplify? No. So this is a factor. 3k plus 1. Does 3 over 21 simplify? Yeah. So alpha y equals enter. 3 over 21. It simplifies to 1 over 7. Bring over your k and bring over your plus sign. So k plus 7 is your other factor. Any questions with those? Okay, we're going to do one more trinomial together before we come back to the front. We're going to actually talk about this one first. So if you look at number 2 now, we know that we would have had to snowflake it. And 6 times negative 13, I believe, is negative 78. Yes. And B is 4. If you type this in your calculator, negative 78 divided x, and you come here, you'll see that you'll never find positive 4. So here's positives. It goes to 4.14, but is there ever a whole number 4? Like, you can even keep scrolling. It's just going to go into negatives, and then it just keeps getting bigger. So it's not going to happen. Therefore, I know that this is not factorable. However, the whole answer is not prime, because what did I take out? A 2. So it did factor, it just doesn't factor further. Does that make sense? Okay, so look at number 9 on your practice. I know this has notes, that's my bad. That's what happens when I make things when my brain has started spring break early. Okay, now, does number 9 have a GCF? No. 6 is your smallest number. Does 6 go into 7? No, and 7's prime, so the only other thing that goes into 7 is 1 and 7, so it's never gonna happen. So knowing that, I have to go ahead and find my A, B, and C. A is 6, B is 7, C is negative 49. And 6 times negative 49 gives me a big old number. Negative 294. Now, if you're like me, you look at that and you're automatically going to go ahead and go to the y equals, and you're going to just do the trig method because I don't want to figure out all the factors of negative 294. Okay, and I'm looking for 7. Look, I'm already there. That worked out nicely. Okay, so 7 is in my B. So I find my B and Y2, and these two numbers are my two numbers. So I have negative 14 and positive 21. Any questions with that? Now what do I do? simplify them, right? So alpha y equals enter 6 over, I never type my negative because it really throws y'all off. Leave the negative out of it, just 6 over 14. Simplifies to 3 over 7. Bring over your letter, bring over your sign. So 3x minus 7 is a factor. Here, alpha y equals enter 6 over 21 is 2 over 7. Bring over your x, bring over your plus, and I get 2x plus 7. Any questions with trinomials? Yes? Your bottom number, b, in y2. So bottom number 7, so I found 7 in y2. Those two are my numbers. Does that make sense? Okay. So back to your notes, the bottom two. Okay, last two we like these. Difference of squares are simple. This formula looks like this. Okay, so pretty much if we rewrite this now, this one does not have a GCF, the first one. So something squared minus something squared. I'm going to write it two different ways today. Well, honestly, when you do this, you're just finding the square root of these two things to be your a and b. So what's the square root of 4? And the square root of c squared, that just cancels the squared and it's 2c. So a is 2c. It is not 2c squared. It's what's inside the parentheses. That's your a. Yes? Okay. Almost like this. Okay, so b, what's the square root of 25? 5. So b is 5. And then you just do a minus b, a plus b. So 2c minus 5, 2c plus 5. Okay, so now this one. Does this one have a GCF? Yes. Right away you should know that you have to at least take out a negative. Do y'all remember that when negatives are in the front you have to take them out? So I know for a fact I have to take out a negative. Does 2 go into 32? Yeah, so negative 2 is my GCF. So divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. And I'm left with x squared, and then 32 divided by negative 2 is negative 16. Now that I took the GCF out, is it a perfect square minus a perfect square? Yeah, what times what gives you x squared? That's the same. Yeah, if I did the square root of x squared, it gives me x times x. And what's the square root of 16? 4 and 4. So I bring down my GCF, x minus 4, x plus 4. If you can't take the square root of it, it's either a GCF only problem or you messed up somewhere. So double check your work. But this is what you're working on. You only have the 9 more problems.